Another video from fasttech. This is the PS3 Ultimate Disassembly and Repair Guide. This video I'm going to be disassembling a CECHE01 PS3. This is a backwards compatible PS3 and it was sold in North America, US and Canada as a CECHE01. These were shipped with 80GB hard drives, and the previous systems before this, the ones that have hardware, PS2 and PS1 backwards compatibility, were shipped with 60GB hard drives. To check the model number of your PS3, you can look at the back of the console here, and at the very end on this barcode here, it's going to say CECH, and then there's going to be 3 letters and numbers. Could be A01, E01, G01. This one is a CECHE01, and that's how you can check the model number of a PS3. The major difference between a CECHE01 and a CECHE01 is that the CECHE01 does PS2 and PS1 games through hardware compatibility, while the PS3 CECHE01 does this through software emulation. And before we start, guys, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel and like this video if it helps you out. Let's get started. The first thing I'm going to be showing you guys how to fix is the PS3 cannot start error. This error is almost always caused by a defective hard drive. If you need a replacement hard drive, we sell these on our website, and link's going to be in the description box. So to remove the hard drive, to get rid of that pesky PS3 cannot start error, we're going to remove this panel right here, and this is where the hard drive's hidden. We can use tweezers from our fasttech Pro toolkit, and we're gonna poke in this little slot right here, and then we're just gonna pry this piece off. You can also use your fingernail. Once this panel is removed and out of the way, then we're gonna put a Phillips bit into our fasttech Pro auto kit. We're gonna remove this Phillips screw, and once this blue Phillips screw is removed, then we're gonna pull up on this piece and slide the hard drive out like that. It's gonna go to the right and then out. So the CECHE01 systems were shipped with an 80GB hard drive, which is what this is. So if you're getting the PS3 cannot start error message, this is what the error is going to look like. First thing you want to try is you want to clean these connectors right here. You can blow on them using a compressed air can, or you can just try cleaning them out. If that doesn't work, or if you have ticking noises coming from your hard drive, you're going to have to replace the hard drive. And to do that, we're going to remove these 4 Phillips screws using our Phillips bit. Once you have the old hard drive out, you stick a new one in like this, the way I'm showing you guys right now. You put the screws back in, reinstall the hard drive back into its slot, and then reinstall the system software. I'll put the links for the system software that you're going to need, because you will need to reinstall the system software for a hard drive replacement to work. Moving on. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the top cover and the case off the PS3. And to do that, we're going to look at this side of the console, and normally there's a sticker here. If this PS3 was never opened before, which this one has been, there'd be a black sticker here. Now this used to be the warranty sticker, but due to an FTC ruling in the United States, at least in the US, those are no longer considered warranty stickers, even on the newer systems, because on this PS3, since it is 12 or 13 years old now, maybe even more, this system does not have any more warranty. But regardless, I should let you know, because I've had people in the past mention that I didn't mention that, so I'm gonna go ahead and mention that right now. We're gonna pull this rubber stop. Once that sticker is removed, which is already gone, then we're gonna switch to a Torx T8H. Even a T9H will work, but as long as it's a T8H or T9H, which is available in our fasttech Pro toolkit and our fasttech Pro auto kit, which is just the automatic version of the fasttech Pro toolkit. A regular T8 will not work, so we're going to put our T8H into our fasttech Pro auto kit. We're going to stick it in here. We're going to press a button, and the screw inside is gonna come undone. Then we're gonna slide this top cover off like I did here in this video, like that, and the cover is gonna come off. There's the screw. We're gonna get that out, and the screw goes in this clamp here, guys. If you have this piece come out, this is where it goes, in this orientation. Now that we have this cover removed, we're gonna get this out of the way. Now we're gonna switch to our big Phillips head, and we're gonna remove these long Phillips screws that hold this piece of the case on. For reassembly purposes, I want to mention that the small screw, and there's only one on this side of the case, the small screw goes in here and it's labeled with an S. The long screws are for all the other places, but the small screw is labeled by an S, and there's only one of them. Once we have all the Phillips long bolts removed, we're gonna lift the cover from the back like this. There's one screw still in here. I've undone it, but it's still sitting in there, which is fine. And now we're gonna lift up this cover from the back like that. Now we have this cover removed. Next, I'm gonna be showing you guys how to replace the disk drive. And if your PS3 is not reading your Blu-rays or your game discs, which are also Blu-rays, you need to replace this disk drive. But most people, when they replace these disk drives, the mistake they make is they simply disconnect the connectors, the power and the data cable. They disconnect those and they think that just putting a new disk drive is gonna work. But there's another step that you have to take, which is taking the logic board out of this disk drive and installing it into the new disk drive. So to remove the disk drive, we're going to lift this cable out, and we're gonna remove the power connector by grabbing it from the sides and lifting it up. Then we're gonna lift up the disk drive. We're gonna lift up the disk drive, and you're gonna see that there's a cable running underneath. So we're gonna be careful with that cable because it's very easy to break. We're gonna lift the disk drive up and to the right once the power cable's removed, and then you're gonna see this connector here. This is the data cable. Be very careful with this connector here. This is very, very easy to break. I've had even employees in the past that were new that broke these connectors, and I had to fix them myself. So be very careful with these connectors. Even experienced techs have broken these. So we're gonna lift up this connector like this, very, very carefully, lightly lift it up, and then pull the cable out, and now our disk drive has been removed. Next step, we're going to remove the logic board. As I mentioned, you need to remove the logic board and install it into your replacement disk drive. If you don't remove this logic board and put it into this disk drive, this is a dummy disk drive, by the way, guys. This is another disk drive that I replaced from an older PS3. I think this came from an A01, but an E01 and A01 disk drives are exactly the same. But if this was the new disk drive, and by the way, we sell new disk drives on our website at fasttechstore.com. If you need a PS3 disk drive, links are in the description box and also the top comment, and you can use the coupon code YouTube for a discount. So as I was mentioning earlier, we do need to remove this logic board here and install it into our new disk drive for this to work. Otherwise, if you don't do this step, your new disk drive is not going to read your games. We're going to remove the screws that hold the logic board in onto the disk drive. There's 5 Phillips screws. You can use a size 0 from our fasttech Pro Auto Kit. Now we're going to remove these cables. This one lifts up like that, and the rest of them do as well. Lift them up gently. Take your time with this step. You see me going through it fast because I've done it thousands of times, but you want to take your time with this step because you don't want to wreck this logic board. Now, there's still another cable on the side here that you want to be very, very careful with. All right. We're gonna lift up the logic board like this, get the cables out, get them out of the way, and then remove the power connector that's on the left side here. And now we're gonna move this to our left. Slowly, very, very carefully. At this point, you can use tweezers or you can use your fingers to take this connector out. You want to be very, very careful and gentle and take your time with this step. I'm going to use my fingers because that's what I'm more comfortable with. But if you want to use tweezers, you can use tweezers. I'm going to grab the connector from the sides with my fingernails. I'm going to wiggle my fingers sideways. Very, very slowly. Very, very slowly. And like that, it comes out. And now, if we were replacing it with a new disk drive from fasttechstore.com, we're gonna take this logic board and install it in the new disk drive. Moving on. Now I'm gonna be showing you guys how to remove the memory card reader, which never ever fails, but in case yours fails, this is how you remove it. 2 Phillips screws that you gotta take out. Easy. I'm gonna lift it up. There's gonna be a tape that holds this cable in, but this tape's already been busted because the system was opened up already. Then we're gonna lift up this cable like that, and that's the memory card reader. Again, if you need these, we also sell these on our site, but these hardly ever fail. Unless you stuck something in there that you weren't supposed to. Next, I'm going to be showing you guys how to replace the power supply, which is this component right here. If your PS3 is not turning on at all, that means the light at the front does not come on. Even the red light doesn't come on. There's no beep when you press the power button, and there's no output on the screen, obviously. That is caused by a dead or defective power supply, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to replace it right now. In some cases, a yellow light of death could also be caused by a defective power supply. An example of a yellow light of death that's caused by a defective power supply would be if the cable is plugged in, you get a red light at the front, you press the power button, it goes yellow for a second, it turns off, but then it doesn't turn back on. The light goes away, the red light goes away, and then you press the power button, there's no beep, there's no sound, and then you have to unplug the cable from the back, put the cable back in for the light to come on again, and then it does the yellow light again one more time till it goes away completely. That type of yellow light of death is caused by a power supply issue. If you have a consistent yellow light of death where you don't have to unplug the cable, that's caused by a GPU and or CPU solder or the chip itself related issue, and I'll get into that maybe in another video. But to check that one out, you're gonna have to subscribe to the channel and click the bell next to the subscribe button. So now I'm going to be showing you guys how to remove the power supply. In most cases, if your system's not turning on at all, no red light, no yellow light, nothing, no beep, it's caused by this power supply unit here. And there's 5 screws that hold it in. These are not the stock screws. The system was opened up in the past, so these are not the stock screws. Here, these 3 screws would look like these ones. But we're going to go ahead and remove these Phillips screws. Now we're going to lift up the power supply, but there's a cable here that connects to the network card, and it's usually taped to the power supply here. This one's not, but normally you would pull this cable up and get this cable out of the way, away from the tape, so you can get this power supply out of the way. Then we're going to remove the connector at the front. You can remove it from the motherboard, or you can remove it from the power supply here. I'm going to go ahead and remove it from the motherboard. We're going to grab the connector from the sides here, okay, and then we're just gonna wiggle and lift it up, and this connector is gonna come off. Then we're gonna lift the power supply out. There's another cable at the back. It has a pinch connector. We're gonna pinch it here, right here at the top, and then pull it out. It's gonna come out like that, and that's the power supply right there. And again, this is something we sell on our website. It's a model APS226. There's a newer revised version of this that has a plastic underside, and apparently that one produces lesser heat than these ones. But these power supplies, even in this form here, the first version of it, are very hard to get. Very hard to get. And the prices for these keep going up. And I suspect that that's not going to change anytime soon. So grab yours before the price goes completely unaffordable at fasttechstore.com. And again, if your system's not turning on at all, you need to replace this piece. Next, I'm going to show you guys how to replace the network adapter. This card right here is responsible for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on your PS3 system. If your Wi-Fi network list is not showing up, or if your PS3s are not connecting to your system anymore, even with a cable, even if you have a new controller, it's not connecting, and it only connects in PS3 safe mode, you need to replace this network adapter, and there's 4 screws that hold it in. Then we're going to lift up the network adapter out like that. There's a cable underneath. You could remove it from here. There's a clip here on this side, which you can lift up like this. Or if you want to remove it from the motherboard, you could just lift out the cable by grabbing it closest to the connector, grabbing not the connector but the cable, and then pulling it out like that. And that's the network adapter right there. The network adapter model number is underneath, and it's a CECHE01. And surprise, surprise, we sell this on our website. Link's gonna be in the description box and the top comment, and you can use the coupon code YouTube for a discount. Now we're gonna get the motherboard out of the system, and there's a few screws that we have to remove. One thing I noticed is there's supposed to be a screw in here that's missing, and this screw right here is not supposed to be here. There's a smaller Phillips that goes in here, and you guys on your systems, if you have Virgin systems, you'll know that this is the kind of screw that goes in here, and this should be in here. So to demonstrate that, well, actually, the one that goes in here looks like this up here. The head looks like this, but it's a little bit longer. It's one of the, I'll show you guys when I remove these screws. You'll see what I'm talking about. So the first screw we're gonna remove from here, and then we're gonna remove this screw, which would be here, but that's not here. And then we're gonna remove the rest of these Phillips screws that are circled on the screen right now. All of these ones here would be removed. So this is the screw right here that you would normally find in here. This is the grounding cable for the power supply. This right here is a long screw, and it looks like this. So take note of that when you're reassembling your PS3. One of the worst things you can do to a system is put a long screw in the wrong hole. No pun intended. Next, we're gonna remove this cable at the front by lifting it up. You can also remove it from here by lifting this clip up. Then we're gonna lift up the console. As you guys can see here, this vent is melted, which means most likely this customer tried the hair dryer trick, which is where people put a hairdryer in the back in an attempt to heat up the GPU and CPU for the solder connections to rebond, only temporarily of course. And that's what happened to the system. At some point in its life, probably got the yellow light of death, and this is what was done to it. The vent is melted. We're gonna lift up this piece here. It's gonna come off, it's gonna pivot off the front, and then we're just gonna lift the motherboard and the fan and heatsink assembly out, and that's what we're gonna be left with. I'm gonna show you guys, before I put this piece away, I'm gonna show you guys how to remove the power and eject button, or power and eject sensors in this case, because they're not physical buttons. And now this assembly is going to come out. That's a power and eject button sensor. The model number on this is a CECHE01. And we sell these on our website as well. I know you're shocked to hear that. Now we're going to work on the motherboard and the heatsink and fan assembly. There's 4 screws that hold the motherboard onto the heatsink. We're going to remove them. They're Phillips. Now we're gonna remove this piece here. This is part of the case, and there's clips here that we can lift up like that, and this piece will just come off. The power cable plug and on-off switch. Now we're gonna lift up this piece. We're gonna lift up the back plate from the front, like so. It's gonna come off. Now we're gonna flip over, and on this side, we're gonna remove the fan connector by grabbing the connector from the sides, wiggle and lift. And this right here is a CMOS battery, which holds date and time. We're gonna grab it by the white part of the connector, not the off-white part, because the off-white part is part of the motherboard. You don't want that to come off, and it does come off fairly easily if you're not careful with it. So you're gonna grab the white part of the connector, as I am, and maybe use your other finger to hold down the off-white part and lift, and it'll come out like that. So as you can see here, what I was showing you guys on the back plate, this customer used a hair dryer to fix the yellow light of death on their PS3 at some point. And before we bought this system, because this is a system we bought, and as you can see here, this is melted as I showed earlier, and the fan assembly is melted. This is not supposed to be like this. As you can see, this clip is supposed to be over here. This plastic is supposed to be all the way down here. This plastic is supposed to be all the way down here, but it's all melted because they used a hair dryer to heat up the system, which is a very bad idea. But nothing we can do about it now except replace this fan assembly if the system does go back together, which it won't, because this is a part system and we're using this for this YouTube video. So go ahead and smash that like button, guys, and please put F's in the comment section to pay respect to this PS3's fan and heatsink assembly. So as you can see, the thermal paste has been replaced on this PS3 already. If this system was being put back together, I would replace this thermal paste, because as you can see, whoever replaced this thermal paste did not do a very good job. There's too much on the sides, and I don't think it's good quality thermal paste because it's very thin. It's not viscous like good thermal paste usually is. It's very, very thin, and it's like a cheap brand of thermal paste that some computer stores use. We would only use Thermal Grizzly or other high-end thermal paste when we do these jobs, but as you can see here, whoever worked on this did not do a very good job. So to replace the thermal paste, which is what you would want to do if your system's overheating, What you want to do is you want to use rubbing alcohol. Medical grade alcohol works. And wipe this down with paper towels or a sponge, a dry sponge, and rubbing alcohol. Wipe the thermal paste off the CPU and GPU chips, and you got to wipe it off the heatsink. And we recommend replacing it with Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut. And we sell this product on our website. Link is going to be in the description box, fasttechstore.com. And the direct link for this is going to be in the description box and in the top comment, and you can use the coupon code YouTube for a discount. Another thing I should mention to you guys is this is not the surface of the CPU and this is not the surface of the GPU. These are IHSs. So the actual processors are underneath. They're much smaller chips, and to actually do a true thermal paste placement, you'd want to replace the paste on top of this surface, and you also want to replace it underneath the IHS and on top of the actual CPU and GPU dies. We're gonna lift this panel up like that. So now we have access to the motherboard and all the components on it. The model number on this motherboard is on this side, on the left side here. It's a CECHE01, and this is one of the motherboards found in the CECHE01 generation of PS3s. And if you are looking for this motherboard, we sell these motherboards on our website along with a matching logic board that goes with it, because again, as I mentioned earlier in the video, each PS3 motherboard is paired with the disk drive logic board, and if the motherboard is not paired with the same disk drive logic board that it came with from the factory, this combination is simply not going to work. Your system's not going to read games, your Blu-rays. Your games are also on Blu-ray disc, by the way, in case you guys don't know. So the system's not going to read any discs if the logic board does not match the motherboard, because there are keys on the logic board and there's keys on the motherboard that make them locked to each other. It's a security feature, and for that reason it's very critical that you have a matching disk drive logic board with your motherboard, and we do provide that. Like I said, links in the description box. You can use the coupon code YouTube for a discount. Let's look at the back of the motherboard here, and we got our RAM chips here. This is the connector for the disk drive. That's the speaker that makes that beep noise. So if you don't want your PS3 to make that beep noise anymore, you can remove this speaker. I personally wouldn't, because I think that's a classic noise, but some people do remove the speaker because they don't like that beep noise it makes. Now let's look at the fan. I'm trying not to put it down because I don't want thermal paste on my mat. We're going to remove these 3 screws, and that's how you remove the fan. Now that we have those 3 screws removed, we can remove the fan. This is a 15 blade fan right here. There's a 17 blade option, and then there's the most coveted 19 blade fan option. And we sell all 3 of these fans on our website. Links are going to be in the description box. And as always, you can use the coupon code YouTube for a discount. And that concludes our PS3 disassembly video. Please guys, go ahead and smash that like button if this video helped you out. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and click the bell next to the subscribe button. And check out my vlog channel in which I travel the world and I record my adventures. Links for that are going to be in the description box. This is Shiroz from fasttech, and I'll see you in the next one.